Welcome to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast, where we move from wonder to worship, looking for God at work in the world around us, ready to ask the tough questions and discover what His Word has to say to us. Today's episode is called Push Pull, and it's by me, Casey Taylor. I don't know about you, but one of my favorite things in the entire world is watching those security camera videos where you start off thinking, why am I watching this? What's so special about, oh my word? As you see the people walking so confidently toward what they obviously assume to be automatic or pushable doors. And then bam! Face splat straight into the glass doors, which turn out to be pull to exit doors instead. Or in some hilarious cases, I've even seen them smash into and then straight through the glass.
No meme-worthy people were hurt in the remembering of these hilarious moments, but their confidence was, well, shattered.
Now, how does something like this even happen? It's not like those people have never walked through a door that you had to pull to open before. But more than likely, they aren't normal customers of those specific stores. And they're probably used to the kind of doors that open automatically, or even the doors that you push to go through as you exit.
You're not from around here, are you?
So while it's funny, and I mean extremely funny when you do this once, if you were to do it again at the same store, you might have a problem, or you're not learning from your previous mistakes. We've been talking all this week about wisdom and how we can use past mistakes or experiences of our own, but also of others, to help us to make better choices in the future. Ultimately, our goal this week has been to learn what it means to be wise as Christians so that we can honor God and live full lives. And who better to learn from than Jesus himself?
Everyone then who hears these words of mine and does them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Matthew 7:24.
Now, before we get into the point of what Jesus is getting at here, let's look a bit at the picture he gives us in this verse. A wise man who builds his house on the rock. I have a feeling that the man in this story might have had some of his own face-to-glass door moments, where he'd built his dwelling on something like what this passage later calls sand. And when the rain fell and the floods came, well, have you ever built a sand castle too close to the tides before? No matter how much care and effort you put in, those tides level the best of sand castles. Maybe this man experienced something like this and knew from experience that if he wanted his house to stand, he better build it upon something more solid than the sand of his past, or what Jesus calls the rock. Builders call this the foundation, and it's the most important part of any house. Everything else is built upon it and depends upon its stability. The most incredible houses will amount to sand castles if they don't have a solid foundation. The wise man learns this and plans accordingly. He knows from experience that the sand won't cut it. No matter how great the beach views are, you need something more solid. Maybe you've been trying to live a life where you're just doing what's popular and not what's right. Or finding ways of bending the rules to get ahead because maybe you think no one will notice. What Jesus tells us in this passage is that when we hear His words and when we build our lives on the truths that Jesus teaches, we will be like the man who learned his lesson. Someone who smashes their face, but then learns to pull the door next time. Or who no longer builds their life on the sand, but instead builds upon the firm foundation of Jesus, who is our rock.
Now it's time for
Today's Big Question!
Today's big question is, if we want to be like the wise man and to follow Jesus' words, what do we know or remember about what Jesus said to us about how to live? If you can't think of anything, at some point today, find someone to read Matthew chapters 5 through 7 with you. Then go back to today's big question and identify how you might answer that question now. And more importantly, how you might live tomorrow in light of what you have learned today. Thanks for listening to the Generation Kids Daily Devo podcast. If you want to keep in touch with us on all our social media platforms, check out the links in the description. And if you'd like to help support us as we continue to create meaningful content for kids of all generations, please subscribe to our Patreon by visiting us at patreon.com/wearegenerationkids.